everyone, Isaac Saul here, and we're in Chicago for the DNC. I want to talk about 6 things that surprised me from day one. First of all, it was a super emotional night for the Biden family and for a lot of the delegates and attendees who we saw in the actual arena here in Chicago. Biden came out, he was introduced by his daughter, Ashley Biden. He was clearly teared up on stage when he came out. They had a long embrace. People in the crowd were crying. People were cheering for him like crazy, but there was this kind of undercurrent that it was goodbye for now. And I was just struck by the fact that A, him dropping out was basically the most popular thing he's ever done, seemingly. I mean, everybody in this arena was treating him like a hero. And B, the undercurrent of the entire night was just this really big emotional goodbye for him that I was not expecting. So that's one thing that surprised me.
I've made a lot of mistakes in my career, but I gave my best to you. For 50 years, like many of you, I've given my heart and soul to our nation. And I've been blessed a million times in return with the support of the American people. I've either been too young to be in the Senate because I wasn't 30 yet, and too old to stay as president. But I hope you know how grateful I am to all of you. I can honestly say, and I mean this from the bottom, give you my word as a Biden, I can honestly say I'm more optimistic about the future than I was when I was elected as a 29-year-old United States Senator. I mean it.
Number 2, I was surprised how little talk there was about the fact that Kamala Harris could become the first woman to ever be president. When Hillary Clinton was running in 2016, it was all we heard about. It was a centerpiece of many of her speeches. It was all the news outlets were talking about. When speakers introduced her, it always came up. Last night, there was very little talk about the historic nature of Kamala Harris as a president. In fact, there was more talk about Donald Trump cheating on his wife than there was talk about Kamala Harris being the first woman to ever be president. Number 3, Hillary Clinton and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez had probably the 2 most raucous, well-received speeches of the night, which honestly surprised me. If I were ranking politicians in terms of how much I liked them or supported them, neither AOC nor Hillary Clinton would be near the top of my list at the DNC. And yet, despite the fact many of them are often divisive figures within the party, here in Chicago, both of them received some of the loudest receptions when they came out, some of the loudest applause lines during their speeches, nonstop chanting the whole time, and the energy in the room when they were there was only rivaled by when Kamala Harris came out and surprised everybody.
What do I see? I see freedom. I see the freedom to make our own decisions about our health, our lives, our loves, our families. The freedom to work with dignity and prosper, to worship as we choose or not, to speak our minds freely and honestly. I see freedom from fear and intimidation, from violence and injustice, from chaos and corruption. I see the freedom to look our children in the eye and say, in America, you can go as far as your hard work and talent will take you, and mean it. And you know what? On the other side of that glass ceiling is Kamala Harris raising her hand and taking the oath of office as our 47th President of the United States.
Of hearing about how a 2-bit union buster thinks of himself as more of a patriot than the woman who fights every single day to lift working people out from under the boots of greed, trampling on our way of life.
Number 4, and this one is a little bit insidery, but I was surprised at what a logistical mess this entire event has been. There's media and attendees who were stuck outside for multiple hours yesterday trying to get in. Inside the event, people like me, media, digital, print reporters, whatever else, they're being treated much worse than quote unquote content creators and people who are effectively influencers for the Democratic Party. That's a major sea change, and inside the room, it's one of the things a lot of people in the media are talking about. The fact that all these kind of TikTok, YouTube type influencers are getting much more access than the traditional press. Might not be a big deal to you, but for people that are actually here, it's making a difference in how the whole event is going down. The 5th thing that surprised me was just how different this event is in person than it is on Twitter. When I log on to Twitter, I am seeing all this stuff about the chaos of the protesters who are protesting the war in Gaza and how they're breaching fences. I'm seeing stuff about technical difficulties and awkward speeches inside the room and empty arenas. None of that is actually what it's really like here. It's been super calm. I have not seen much in the way of protests. They're obviously happening, but they're not super disruptive to the actual event. There was no protesting happening inside the convention. Once the logistical hurdles of getting everybody inside were kind of smoothed over, it was packed in there, and it was a pretty good environment, I think, for a DNC. There was lots of energy in the room. People stayed late to see President Biden speak. On the whole, when I log on to Twitter and I see the way people are talking about this event and what people are getting from TV, it feels really different from what was happening inside the room, which struck me as pretty surprising. The 6th thing that surprised me, it's actually pretty shocking, the gap between the primetime speakers and the undercard speakers. We were in the arena for several hours last night, listening to every speaker who showed up at the DNC. And for the first couple hours, the younger up-and-coming Democratic Party representatives, they were much worse at publicly addressing a crowd and riling them up and getting them emotionally charged than the speakers who came in the primetime hour. And it was a reminder that one of the big parts of being a successful politician is public speaking. It's connecting with a live audience. It's being able to generate a lot of buzz and energy in a room, and being able to see the night go from the undercard speakers, the young up-and-coming Democrats, to the veterans, the people like Hillary Clinton or now AOC or Kamala Harris or Joe Biden. It really made it clear what a stark difference there is between people who have been doing this for a really long time and are really experienced at it versus people who are still finding their way. Those are 6 things that surprised me from the first night of the DNC. We're going to be covering the DNC all week, so subscribe to our channel, follow along if you want some more updates.